Good afternoon, dear traders.
Hello everyone, welcome to InstаФорекс Economic News TV channel with us, Anna Kasatkina.
And Kate Nidachina.
You are watching combined currency and commodity review over the last week.
So what trends were seen on Forex?
The US dollar edged down against the euro on Friday.
And what events weighed on the greenback?
Economic figures released in the USA discouraged investors. The US dollar ended Friday higher, going up at the end of the month against its major counterparts. Stronger greenback in early July was the result of weaker June reports. Back then, the US dollar fell against majors. Up 1.4% in July against the euro, the US dollar showed the best monthly performance since May. However, the weekly results were not so encouraging. The euro soared above the level of 1.11 in early Friday after the release of the employment cost index. The indicator showed that the expenses of the employers rose at a slower than expected pace in the second quarter. Nevertheless, the euro failed to hold these positions and bounced to its opening level. The trading closed at 1.0984, whereas it started at 1.0985. The data published last week showed that the economic growth was less in May-July than forecasted. Wages growth was also weaker than indicated in earlier reports. The ICE dollar index, tracking the greenback's performance against a basket of 6 major currencies, ended the month on an upbeat note, accumulating 1.8%. However, at the end of the week, the indicator remained almost flat. A sharp decline of the indicator was logged on Friday, but by the end of the day, it managed to rebound from the levels at which it was last week, around 97.20. On Wednesday, the dollar index was backed by the renewed data on the Fed's monetary policy. On Thursday, the indicator was traded upwards after the release of the first GDP estimate. The Fed's officials changed their view on labor markets, saying that they have to see some further improvement in this sphere. This suggests that they need to see a slightest improvement to initiate the rates hike. This is all about the currency news.
Thank you for the Forex market overview, Kate.
Not at all, Anna. And what about oil and gold last week?
Well, bears ruled the commodity market last week.
And why market players sold the assets?
Worries over stable oil market glut were still present. At the end of the month, benchmark oil closed on a downside note after the news that the number of active drilling rigs in the USA increased, totaling 664 units. WTI oil futures for September delivery fell on Friday by 2.9% to $47.12 per barrel. The weekly decline was 2.5%. Over the month, the contracts dropped 21%. September Brent futures were down by 2.1% to $52.21 per barrel. Over the week, the prices gave up 5% and over the month 18%. US crude oil inventories expanded by 100 million barrels, exceeding the average level for this time of the year. Exports of crude oil from Iraq are at the record high. China reports slowdown in the economy. Stronger US dollar is negative for commodities and they lose their attractiveness for investors. All these factors pressure on oil. Gold closed on the upbeat note on Friday, offsetting earlier losses. However, the monthly dynamic was the worst in more than 2 years. Gold August futures closed on COMEX $6.50 higher at $1,094.90 per troy ounce. December contracts lifted $6.40 to $1,095.10 per troy ounce. July losses totaled 6.5%, and this is the most significant fall since June of 2013, when the price is slumped by 12%.
Anna, thank you for the commodity market review.
You're welcome, Kate.
You have watched combined currency and commodity review on InstаФорекс TV News channel.
The report was presented to you by me, Anna Kasatkina,
and me, Kate Nidachina.
Take care and goodbye.
See you soon.